is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald. Good evening, everybody. Well, it's an issue that never goes away in American politics, a hot topic. It's being debated all the time. It's an issue that is hardly ever debated here at all, but it's an issue that is setting Ireland alight politically. And we've got just 72 hours left until a referendum in Ireland on abortion. It's about the 8th Amendment to their constitution. Do people want to get rid of the 8th Amendment and allow abortion to become legal in Ireland? Right at the moment, it is illegal in Ireland. In fact, if you go for an abortion that is conducted in Ireland, it's subject to up to 14 years in prison. However, for the last 25 years, Irish women are allowed to come to the United Kingdom to have abortions in the United Kingdom if that is legal under UK law. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about terminations up to 12 weeks, subject to conditions, and terminations up to 24 weeks with more conditions. So what we've got here, and I do understand in some ways why the Irish Foreign Minister Coveney says, well, actually, this is about us taking back control of abortion policy, because at the moment, Irish women are subject to whatever UK law is. We, of course, in 1967, David Steele, Liberal MP, still around, he's Lord Steele, I saw him last week, he brought in the Abortion Act of 1967. What Ireland wants to do effectively, or what the Irish government wants to do, and it's being led very much by the Prime Minister, or Taoiseach, as he's known there, Leo Varadkar, and, as I said, the Foreign Minister. In fact, actually, the truth of it is, almost everybody in Dublin thinks the law should be changed. Every political party thinks the law should be changed. Every media organisation thinks the law should be changed. Dublin thinks the law should be changed. And yet, the outcome of this referendum is very, very far from clear. So tonight, what I want you to comment on is, if you were taking part in this referendum on Friday to allow abortion, legal abortion, how would you vote? And in a sense, you're not just voting on the Irish question, you're voting really on the 1967 Abortion Act in this country and how it's being conducted today. It's your judgment on that. And if you think, well, actually, what Ireland really needs to do is to get with the modern world, to have the same laws as the United Kingdom, there frankly isn't a problem with it, then call me on 0345 6060 973. Or maybe you think, actually, do you know what? There are real problems with the abortion laws in the United Kingdom. It'd be crazy for the Irish, even if they wanted repeal, to go for the same kind of system we've got as the UK. Text me on 84850. And any other opinions on this, for many people, very, very difficult subject, then please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And, of course, watch us on Facebook. Zuckerberg has not banned me. I've got no problems. I may have been critical last night, but I was. Actually, in many ways, I was politer to Mark Zuckerberg than the other group leaders. And my chief of staff in Brussels said to me after the meeting, the president of the European Parliament's cabinet, Tajani, Italian Tajani is president, their cabinet had said to Orally, who works for me over there as my chief of staff, isn't it funny, Farage was the best behaved of all the leaders. So we're still here. You can watch us on Facebook Live and you can comment there too. So how would I vote? What would I do if I were an Irish citizen living in the Republic of Ireland and I had a vote in that referendum on Friday? Well, I tell you, I'd vote no. I would vote not to repeal the 8th Amendment. I would vote to keep Ireland's abortion laws as they are. Are they perfect? No. But I do not believe, I've never been what you would call a pro-lifer. I've always been more on the side of pro-choice of the woman. But I think our abortion laws right now don't work, and I would not vote for them on this basis in Ireland. I'll tell you why. we at the moment, if you are 22 weeks pregnant and you go into labour or there's a problem, we, using modern medicine, have a better than evens chance of saving that child at 22 weeks and that boy or girl growing up and living a full, normal life. And yet, we're allowing terminations up to 24 weeks. These same things are happening in the same hospital buildings at the same time. That, to me, is absolute madness. I think we do need to change our abortion laws, and I think we need to shorten the number of weeks. If I was an Irish citizen, I would vote against this change in the law on the basis that what is being proposed, frankly, isn't working in the UK. Now, I know that it's something people very rarely talk about in public in British politics. It's an issue that the parties don't put in their manifestos. It's one of those issues of individual conscience. But there are very few people out there criticising our current abortion laws. I just have. That is my view. Let's find out what you think. Let's go to Chris, a brand new caller who lives in Heathrow. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Nigel. I do listen to you most evenings. Sometimes I agree with you. Sometimes I feel like kicking my radio.
well, Chris, that's open debate, isn't it? That's
exactly,
good.
But I always try to listen to you.
Thank you.
At least you're honest and straightforward, and I've always... I may not agree with you, but I do respect you.
Thank you.
Now, my only observation on this Irish abortion issue is... why do men have a vote? This is a woman's issue. It concerns women, women's bodies, and I just really... men can have an opinion, of course they can, and they can give their views, but I don't feel they should have a vote. It should only be Irish women who should vote.
All right, Chris. So what would you do? I mean, we're living in the modern world here. What would you do to those people who were born as men who now identify as women? Would they have the vote?
Oh, come on.
No, I'm being, Chris, I'm being serious.
Okay, seriously. If they are able to bear a child, then yes.
Ah, but there are lots of women who were born women, who grow up to be women, who, despite the fact in many cases would desperately want to have a child, are not able to. Would they be excluded?
No, of course not. No. Basically, anyone who is a woman, and I do think you're splitting hairs a little bit about transgender.
Well, I tell you what, Chris, it's becoming a bigger and bigger debate across many areas of society, but all right, even if we take that out of it, surely men have a right to vote on what is, after all, the Constitution of the Republic of Ireland.
It concerns, they have a right to have an opinion, and they have a right to voice that opinion, provided they do so respectfully and legally, but it's only a woman's issue. It's not the men who have to go through it. They don't have to carry the pregnancy, and often in these cases, not always, the man will do a runner anyway. Just my opinion, Nigel.
No, Chris, you've made it. It's a fascinating opinion. Can I ask you, Chris, if you were an Irish citizen, how would you vote on Friday?
Well, if I was a male Irish citizen, I wouldn't vote.
All right, on principle. And all right, at least you're being consistent.
Okay. However, if I was a female Irish citizen, which I'm not, but if I was,
yes,
I would vote yes.
You would vote to reform, to change the laws. Chris, thank you. Well, Chris, their fascinating perspective. He thinks it only affects women. Only they should vote. Let's see what Leshmi, calling from Cardiff, thinks of this. Hello.
Hi, I was just listening to the beginning of your show, and you mentioned you got your facts slightly incorrect about a 22-week baby being able to survive to full adulthood. They can't if they require CPR when they're born. They can't. I was a paediatrician. I was a neonatologist in St Thomas's. I have worked on babies of that age. If a baby at 22 weeks is born and they require CPR or any advanced life support, they don't have a possibility of survival at 22 weeks. At 23 weeks, it is possible, again, if they don't require CPR. If they do require CPR at birth, it's very, very poor prognosis.
Leshmi, fine, thank you for that, but my point still stands, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If at 23 weeks a child being born can survive, how can it be right in effectively the same building in the same hospital that we are saving lives at 23 22-week-old babies, but aborting those at 24. I think all I'm saying is there is an inconsistency here.
24 is the legal limit, so they wouldn't abort past 24 weeks unless
at 24 weeks.
Severe, even at 24 weeks, people you will be find in this country will be very reluctant to abort unless there was a severe medical indication for that child, unlikely to survive anyway. I don't know of any responsible doctor who will abort a 24-week perfectly healthy baby.
Well, legally, but Leshmi, legally they can.
Yes, I know they're illegal, but the law hasn't caught up with the medical ethics of that. I don't know any neonatologist or paediatrician or obstetrician who would abort a 24-week-old perfectly healthy fetus.
Okay, would you keep the abortion laws as they are?
Yes.
You're happy with them? You're comfortable with them?
I am comfortable with that. Well, it depends on which section you mean, because I'm very comfortable that you should have the right up to 24 weeks, because or 23 weeks, really, because they wouldn't survive on their own anyway. However, I'm uncomfortable, personally, getting an abortion past 10 or 12 weeks, personally, if it was me, because at that point, physiologically, that fetus is shaped as a human. However, not sentient, whether you'd call it a life, as in a sentient life, at that point, is up for debate.
Okay, so I mean, I understand what you're saying about medical ethics, all right?
Yes.
But legally, at 24 weeks, abortion can take place in this country.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I'm saying the law needs tidying up, Leshmi.
In what way, though?
Well, it is inconsistent. It is inconsistent. It is inconsistent to me that you can have a situation where fetuses that are born before the legal abortion limit and can survive, can survive and make it, and that we can abort fetuses that are older than that, albeit by a few days.
But then you have. But the thing is, you cannot have a blanket rule for every woman. If there is a fetus that is a perfectly healthy fetus born at 23 weeks that requires and can survive, fine. However, if you have a fetus that's 24 weeks and you suddenly discover a catastrophic brain malformation, do you think it's right for that child who has no quality of life and is likely to have a poor, painful life? Do you think that's appropriate for that child to survive?
I think there are I think there are some slight inconsistencies in this law, but I understand what you're...
The reason the law is inconsistent is because not every single situation is the same.
No.
In this instance, you cannot have a one blanket policy. This is about medicine, not just the law. And medicine is not perfect. No one rule can apply to every single woman across the country.
I get that. So if you were an Irish citizen, Leshmi, you would vote to repeal the 8th Amendment?
I would, yes. Yeah. Because I believe that in some situations you would need to do that at 23 or 24 weeks. You would need, medically or ethically, you would need to abort a fetus. There are reasons.
OK, Leshmi, thank you very much for your call, for your insight into what's happening in hospitals, and to introduce the concept of medical ethics, which I thought actually was rather cheering in many ways. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It's now 7:17.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
New Home Secretary Sajid Javid will today admit that policing has become, quotes, hard and horrible for stretched frontline officers as he promises to fight their corner. Callum MacLeod chairs the Police Federation of England and Wales.
If you look across the board, that violent crime is rising. I mean, knife and gun crime is an epidemic. We're seeing 999 calls not being answered. The public aren't actually seeing the police.
Much is made of the fact that Sajid Javid grew up in a very challenged part of Bristol.
Numbers of members of the public around the country have been brought up there, and actually to relate to the members of the public across the country is really important in any role.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times, be not just informed, but well informed.
Movies on the big screen are great, but imagine a whole year of 2-for-1 movies.
Customers of CompezaMarket.com can get a whole year of 2-for-1 cinema tickets to use every Tuesday or Wednesday at participating cinemas with Meerkat Movies.
Find out more and enter to win an unforgettable movie-inspired family trip to LA. Enter now at lbc.co.uk. Qualifying purchases only. Conditions apply.
OK, children, settle down. Thank you for bringing your pets in for Bring Your Pet to School Day. Megan, who is this delightful little ball of fur?
It's Trico, my guinea pig, miss.
Adorable. And Alfie, who's this?
It's Ronaldo, my rabbit, miss.
What a darling. And what's in the wooden crate, Poppy?
Fluffy.
That's a very strong lock. This way, children.
With a Land Rover Discovery, adventure can take you, well, anywhere. Never stop discovering. Search Land Rover Discovery. Land Rover, above and beyond.
My house, my office, they're a mess. You need London storage vaults. Their self-storage units are in an underground vault near Oxford Circus, so they're completely safe. They're also climate controlled, so they're ideal for anything from paperwork to fine wines.
Sounds great.
They'll collect your stuff for free if you're in zones 1 and 2. There's 24/7 access and all from just £10 a week.
London Storage Vaults, the future of self-storage. Visit londonstoragevaults.com. Terms and conditions apply.
At Argos, our Big Red event is on. Save up to a third on selected garden furniture, spas and barbecues. Plus, get a free £10 voucher when you spend £100. With Argos, you're good to go. Conditions apply. Selected lines. Offer ends 5th of June. Voucher offer ends 2nd of June when you spend £100 or more. Excludes gift card purchases.
Whatever your customers trust you to do, they trust you with their data too. So whether you're a carpenter or a chiropractor, a florist or a financial advisor, an electrician or nail technician, don't forget the new GDPR data protection rules apply to your business from the 25th of May. You could be fined if you ignore them. So whatever you do, get data protection ready at ico.org.uk.
Is your money working as hard as you do? Think about it. While you're grafting away, is your money working too? No? Then it's time to Wealthify. Wealthify is the smart, easy way to start investing. Just say how you want to invest. Cautious, adventurous, somewhere in between? And let Wealthify do the rest. Then keep track of your money on the app. Easy. Isn't it time for you to Wealthify? Download the app or visit wealthify.com. With investing, capital is at risk and you could get back less than you put in.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Abortion is a deeply contentious issue, and the Taoiseach, the Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar, has been out on the streets today in Dublin and elsewhere trying to persuade voters to modernise, as he sees it, to get rid of their 8th Amendment and to have very similar abortion laws to the United Kingdom. At the moment, Irish women can come to the United Kingdom to have abortions conducted, but they cannot be conducted on the island of Ireland. I'm asking you, if you had that vote on Friday, how would you vote? But before I do that, a very quick comment. You may have seen earlier this week Michael Gove saying to us that wood-burning stoves should be banned. They've got to be got rid of. He even said he thought 38% of some particularly dangerous particles went into the air as a result of wood-burning stoves. Fascinating. So we've been told by governments over the last few years that it's much better to burn wood than it is to burn coal. In fact, in many ways, governments have encouraged us to buy wood-burning stoves. In fact, the Drax power station up in Yorkshire, and if you sort of drive up the A1, you see these huge 8 chimneys, I think there are there. It looks massive. That now doesn't burn coal. No, because we've gone green. No, what we do is we import wood chips from America and Canada, and we burn wood in Drax. And now Michael Gove is saying that burning wood is worse for the environment than almost anything else. So, Mr. Gove, you're going to ban people from using their wood-burning stoves in their front rooms. Are you closing down the Drax power station as well? And doesn't it all remind you of diesel? We were all told, get diesel cars, you'll get more mileage to your tank, it's better for the environment. So, actually, I went out there and bought a diesel car. Now we're told diesel is ruinous. And they wonder why we don't trust a single word they say. Love to have an answer from Michael Gove. Is the Drax power station going to be closing down as well? Back to this very contentious issue of abortion. Loads of messages from you. You know, I would vote no in the referendum. Only women get pregnant. Why should men get the vote? Backing up the first caller we had tonight. Twitter, I get, personally, I'm against abortion, but it's ultimately a moral decision for the individual to make. Well, Peter, in that case, then, if it's up to the woman to decide, you would change the legislation. Lots of very strong views. You know, Deborah says to me from Oxfordshire, Ireland should keep the amendment. It's there to protect the unborn. But I think the one that I think really gets to the heart of this, Graham says to me on SMS, if abortion is carried out for the safety of the mother, I would support it. But if it's used as a form of contraception, I would condemn it. And Graham, the second criticism of David Steele's 1967 Act is that when that passed through Parliament, it was said that women having abortions would be counselled, would be spoken to, and the critics of legislation as it operates today say that effectively abortion in Britain today is an alternative form of contraception. I pass no comment on that, but that is what the critics say. Let's go to Seamus, a brand new caller to this show, who's calling from Belfast. Good evening, Seamus.
Hello, Nigel. How are you doing? I'm a big fan of yours. Always have been. I think what you've done in British politics is will be historical in 100 years' time. But I think if I can get a quote in Irish for you tonight on abortion, you're talking utter bollocks. I'll tell you why.
Hang on, Seamus. No more bad language. It is only 7 o'clock. Now, Seamus, OK, so you think the 8th Amendment needs to be changed, yeah?
I'll tell you why. I have 4 kids.
Yep.
3 boys and a daughter. And I believe you have kids too.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, you imagine some dirty animal or animals rape. I don't know if you have a daughter. Have you have a daughter?
I have daughters, yes.
Right. You imagine some dirty animal or animals raping your daughter, as I imagine some dirty animal raping my daughter. And you imagine that poor wee girl getting pregnant. And you imagine that poor wee girl, maybe 18, 19, 17, 16, and getting pregnant. And you're trying to articulate the point tonight that they shouldn't have a right to get an abortion. Could you imagine the detrimental effect of having that child for many, many years to come?
Yes, Seamus, I can, absolutely. And I said, Seamus, hang on. I said at the top of the hour, I'm not a pro-life campaigner. I do believe in choice. And I certainly, in a case where it can affect the woman's health, or in this case, potentially their mental health, then I would not wish to oppose abortion being carried out. The reason I said, Seamus, I wouldn't vote, I wouldn't vote yes if I was Irish on Friday, is I don't think the Abortion Act is working quite as well as it should be in this country and needs some amendment. So we're not that far away, Seamus.
Can I have a right to play, please?
Absolutely.
You imagine your daughter getting pregnant by some animal or animals, right? And your daughter, your beautiful daughter, having to go on in life, carrying a child that she doesn't want, that will detrimentally affect her mental health, her life choices. Are you trying to tell me as a parent, now I'm not trying to advocate abortion, because abortion to me is personally wrong, but there are circumstances in which abortion has to be justified. Are you trying to tell me as a father to your beautiful daughter, who you love dearly, who you cradled in your arms when she was just first born, changed her nappy, are you trying to tell me that you would say to your daughter, I love you, but after the man or men who raped you, you can't have an abortion?
No, Seamus, I am not saying that, and I understand your emotions on this, and I bet the vast majority of people listening to this will agree with you. Jacob Rees-Mogg wouldn't agree with you. He thinks abortion is wrong in all circumstances, and he's a strong Catholic. But Seamus, I'm with you on this. I think there are circumstances in which it is the right thing to do. Thank you very much for that call. Colin is a new caller from Basingstoke. Good evening, Colin.
Good afternoon, Nigel. How are you?
Hi. Well, thank you. Now, this is a hugely contentious issue in Ireland, but it's funny, we don't discuss this in this country very often, but when we do, boy, it does stir emotions, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
So how do you feel? How would you vote on Friday?
So I'd vote no. I'd vote no against the repeal.
Yeah.
And I was telling your researcher, actually, I find my own opinion on this quite interesting, because as a young 20-year-old, I would have been pro-choice.
Yep.
But as I've gone into my late 20s and now early 30s, I find myself now on pro-life. And the situation that your previous caller brought up is a horrible one, a horrendous one. But I think about this now from the point of view of the unborn child. They have a life, and who protects their life in this situation? The woman has all the say, but the child can't, because it's still very much inside of her and unable to voice its opinion. Yeah.
But if unwanted children, Colin, come into the world, they may not be getting a very good start to life that could lead to a bad middle and a bad end.
Of course, I think you need to approach this with as much love as you possibly can. I take the situation that your previous caller described, where your daughter was raped. Yes, okay, I would be horrified for that to have happened to my own daughter. I would be, as most people would, deeply saddened. But at the same time, the life she now carries is my grandchild. Mm-hmm. As much as I would hate the man who would do that to my daughter, I would try to love my grandchild.
Yeah, I mean, Colin, as you say, it's a very difficult situation. I'm sure there are people listening who've been in this situation. It's very, very difficult. Colin, I'm not for banning abortion, but I do worry that if the Irish vote yes on Friday, they vote for the abortion laws we've got at the moment, which I'm not sure are working. Colin, thank you very much. John says, if there is a heartbeat, that child has the right to life, so it's no for me. Stefan says, I'm against abortion, and I'm an atheist. Just want to take the religion out of the debate. Interestingly, Stefan, from what I can see of this Irish referendum, it has not been the old Catholic Church against the trendy establishment. I think religion has actually been taken out of this debate to a very, very remarkable degree. Difficult to predict how this referendum will go on Friday. I have a funny feeling there might just be a silent majority out in the country that may well reject the Taoiseach's proposals. That's my current feeling on it. I don't go to the betting shop. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It's now 7:30 and time for the news with Thomas Watts.
Yulia Skripal has spoken for the first time since the Salisbury nerve agent attack. She's described the poisoning in March as an attempted assassination, calling her recovery slow and painful. The Home Secretary's promised to prioritise police spending in an olive branch to rank-and-file officers. Sajid Javid's told officers he's absolutely determined to put an end to a rise in violence, backing a boost in the use of stop-and-search powers. The head of HMRC says businesses could be left up to £20 billion worse off if a technology-led customs arrangement is implemented after Brexit. John Thompson's told MPs the MaxFac plan to use new systems to solve the Irish border question would leave firms with huge administration costs. LBC weather turning cloudier across central and southern England and Wales tonight. Some outbreaks of rain, a low of 8 degrees.
LBC Travel. The A41 in Hendon is closed heading into town from Hendon Central. This is because a water main has burst. There are long queues on the North Circular westbound from East Finchley. In Woolwich, it's struggling on John Wilson Street, southbound between the Woolwich Ferry roundabout and St Mary Street. The inside lane is closed. This is after a car caught fire earlier on. It is very slow on the approach. And on the trains, there are delays of up to an hour and some cancellations on Southern services in and out of London Bridge because of a signalling problem. LBC Travel, I'm Louise Gookie.
This is LBC.
Vision Consulting Chartered Accountants have seen astonishing growth over the years. So now, their ever-expanding client base means they're looking for remarkable people to join the Vision Consulting team in all areas of the business. In particular, they have immediate start vacancies for senior tax directors and payroll clerks. But they'd love to hear from anyone with a proven track record in accountancy. For a bright new future, visit visionconsulting.co.uk and apply today.
Whoever they want to be in life, give them a great start with WellKid. Carefully balanced, great-tasting vitamins and minerals for 4 to 12-year-olds, with specific nutrients such as zinc and vitamin D, which support normal immune system function. The WellKid range from Vitabiotics, from Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com.
We've got it at Selco. Selco, it's where the trade go.
At Selco Builders Warehouse, we've got real deals on a wide range of trade-quality building products. In May, we've got a natural stone paving project pack for only £17.99 ex-VAT per square metre. Now that's a real deal. We've got even more real deals at Selco Builders Warehouse. For more information, see selcobw.com.
We've got it at Selco. Selco, it's where the trade go.
OK, children, settle down. Thank you for bringing your pets in for Bring Your Pet to School Day. Megan, who is this delightful little ball of fur?
It's Treacle, my guinea pig, miss.
Adorable. And Alfie, who's this?
It's Ronaldo, my rabbit, miss.
What a darling. And what's in the wooden crate, Poppy?
Fluffy.
That's a very strong lock. This way, children.
With a Land Rover Discovery, adventure can take you, well, anywhere. Never stop discovering. Search Land Rover Discovery. Land Rover, above and beyond.
You've worked hard, your company has flourished, and you're deservedly reaping the fruits of your labour. However, you're now ready to retire and call it a day. But how do you ensure an orderly exit to realise maximum value from your business? At Barnes Rofe, our specialists have been busy helping clients with bespoke succession planning and business exit strategies. Call us today to help plan for your retirement. Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for mature businesses.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
We rarely debate abortion in this country. We've had an act since 1967 that allows legal abortion up to 24 weeks. I have a slight problem with that. I think that should be reduced a little bit. It's also true, I think, to say that the original assurances that were given by David Steele way back in 1967 have not really quite worked out, and that in many cases abortion is used as an alternative form of contraception. That said, I'm not against women having the choice. I never, ever have been. I think the law needs to be improved, but the Irish have got this vote on Friday, and I'm asking you, how would you vote in that referendum? As it is, of course, 2,000 to 3,000 Irish women every year come to the United Kingdom to have legal abortions. Before I get back to that, the Daily Mail today getting very heavily on a theme that I've pushed on this show for some time, and that is, what do people think about the House of Lords? Polling Commission published today in the Mail, 76% think the Lords is out of tune with the will of the British people. 79% think the Lords is an outdated throwback. 58% believe the Lords was wrong to try and thwart Brexit. But most interestingly, only 17% believe the House of Lords should continue as it is, and the other bigger splits are those that just want it abolished completely and those that think it should be an elected second chamber. I am in favour of an elected second chamber where you get elected and serve just one term. I think the Daily Mail are right to publish this. I think whatever we used to think about the House of Lords being full of hereditaries, now it's full of Cameron and Blair's mates. It represents the London metropolitan elite, and it's not doing the right job. Back to the Irish referendum. Jim is a new caller from Horsham in Sussex. Good evening, Jim.
Hi, Nigel. How are you?
I'm well. So how would you vote if you were Irish on Friday?
No.
You'd vote no? OK.
No, definitely not. No, I don't see anybody's looking at this from the point of view of the baby itself. The baby is conceived. It's alive. It's going to become a child. People that want to keep their child, it grows up, it's loved, and all. The child has now started life.
Yep.
You know,
the argument, Jim, has always been that it's not actually life until it becomes a sentient being. That's what some who are pro the abortion argument would say to you.
You were talking about it earlier on, about, is it 23 weeks or 24?
Yeah, I was.
Weeks. You know, these things are irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. The fact of the matter is the child has been conceived. Pro-choice comes, don't get pregnant in the first place. And the majority of pregnancies that are aborted are not because of, I believe, rape or incest or some other reason.
Okay,
They're not by accident.
So, Jim, let me ask you: would you like to see the law in this country change?
Oh yeah,
you would. Definitely. And is that a position that you've come to recently? Is it a long-held view? Is it a view based on your religious beliefs?
I am a Christian.
Yep.
All of my life, I've been very blasé, abortion, yeah, sure, go and, do it. I'm older now, and I've had time to think about it. It has been suggested and spoken about, and I find that even people I've spoken to, women that have thought about abortion, tried to have an abortion for one way or another, drink 2 bottles of gin, things like this, have actually given birth and love their children.
Mm.
It's morally, think of it from the child's point of view.
No, Jim, I understand that. I understand that. But, Jim, what about the argument that some of these women are simply going to have abortions anyway? They will either come to the UK or go to a backstreet clinic. Why not, as an Irish government, I'm not saying I agree with this, but I understand the logic of it, why not, as an Irish government, control it themselves?
OK, let me ask you a question. What has the child done wrong? Why are you killing a child? It hasn't done anything wrong.
No.
It's not a criminal. You abort a child from rape, fine. I don't agree with that. Why not have a go at the rapist? He's the one that did the wrong.
Well, what about the mental health of the woman who has been raped, who does not want this child? You're going to force her to go through with that pregnancy. At the end of it, she's probably going to go for an adoption or whatever else it is. It might scar her, Jim, for the whole of the rest of her life.
Right, OK, in the abortion laws at the moment, if there is a life-threatening problem, then the abortion is OK to go through.
But it's very difficult to measure the mental health effects, isn't it?
It is, but once you've killed a child, it's dead.
Well,
there's no coming back from that. Even the mother herself, if she's been raped, may not like the idea of an abortion.
No, OK. Jim, you've made the point. You've made it very clearly. You've made it very strongly. You're far from alone in feeling that opinion. Going to go to Jackie, a new caller from St Albans in Hertfordshire. Jackie, good evening.
Good evening. I'm stunned. It's all men voting up, ringing up to say no.
No, it's not. No, it's not, Jackie.
A few women. OK, so...
And some of the men, Jackie, some of the men have said that if they were living in Ireland, they would abstain from voting on the basis they think women should make this choice. And I've also, Jackie, had SMS messages I read out to that effect as well.
I thought he was right. Now, I'm Irish, as you can tell.
Uh-huh.
I would vote yes.
OK.
It's a woman's right to choose. I have supported someone who came over from Ireland. I've walked her through that awful clinic in Ealing. I have supported her. I've comforted her. And the awful thing is, she went back to Ireland. She had all the support in the clinic. They talked to her. They were really good. So all these people saying they don't get support and they don't get help, they get offered everything. They get made sure it is the right decision for them. It is their decision, not anyone else's. And the number of people who have died giving birth. There was a girl in the 1980s in Ireland who died by a cross giving birth because she couldn't have an abortion. She'd been raped by her father. And she died giving birth. Nobody would talk about it. There was a woman in the west of Ireland who should have had an abortion. She died because they wouldn't give her an abortion in the hospital, even though medically she was entitled to it in Ireland. Women have the right to choose what is done to their body. And it's up to each individual.
Jackie, I understand that point completely, fully, and I don't disagree with it. Are you happy that the option that Farage has gone for is basically a replica of the UK mainland model?
Yes, I am.
OK.
I'm quite happy with it. I totally accept it. The idea that there's very few children born at 23, 24 weeks who grow up to be active adults. Most of them, if they survive, have serious issues. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think, if a child grew up with that, I would love and support them.
Yeah.
But equally, I should have, and every woman should have the right to choose. And do you know that the American anti-abortionists have come into Ireland and are putting up posters that are false? They're putting up posters of babies at 15, 16 weeks sucking thumbs.
I think whether it's the issue of abortion, whether it's the issue of gay marriage, there's been all sorts of interference in Irish elections coming in from overseas, despite Irish electoral law. Jackie, do you think that the vote will go the way you want it to and be a yes on Friday?
I don't know.
No. Well, actually,
I'm very scared for the women of Ireland that they will still have to get on the boat, get on the plane, and come to Ireland.
Yeah.
Come to England.
Come to England.
And have
Yeah.
an abortion.
Yeah.
And do you know what? If somebody phoned me up from Ireland and said, "I need an abortion," my hand would be there to help them.
Okay, Jackie, very passionately put case. Thank you very much indeed for your call. Dare says to me, it's time for Ireland to take ownership of this issue and not put women through the trouble of travelling to the UK. Very much the point Jackie just made. Rick said, I'm listening to people's views and reading people's comments on Facebook and thinking, is it possible to support both sides of this debate in some form? Rick, actually, it is really, isn't it? Because in a sense, I'm being slightly equivocal on this, aren't I? I mean, I know people expect me to have absolutely black and white opinions, but, I am generally pro-choice, but I'm not happy with the way the legislation in this country is operating at this time, which is why, if I was an Irish citizen, I would vote against what's being proposed by Varadkar and say, come back with something better. So yes, I think it is one of those issues, actually, where you can see both sides. I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg was asked by Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain, was he opposed to abortion even in cases such as rape? And Jacob said, I'm afraid to say, yes, I am. Now, Rick, I would suggest to you that the majority of people who are nervous about abortion legislation would still think in cases like that women should have the choice. So yes, Rick, I think it is one of those issues in which we can be somewhat equivocal. I know there are those out there who take a very strong view on both sides. I do see a little bit of both in this. I don't like the legislation as it's currently working. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive in LBC. It's 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
New research is questioning the government's support of grammar schools, suggesting pupils gain little advantage. Do grammar schools really deliver a better education?
Clive Bull on LBC.
After working as a solicitor, Muhsin Ismail changed to a career in teaching. He tells us why.
There are two parts that make teaching really interesting and something that I get up in the morning, want to do every single day. And the first part is the actual bit in the classroom where you get to inspire young people, which is really engaging for me. But there's also the leadership part of it, which was always really my interest when I left law.
Get into teaching and enjoy a truly rewarding career. Find out more at lbc.co.uk.
Attention all pension holders. If you've been advised by a financial professional to move your pension into a SIP, also known as a self-invested personal pension, you could be owed thousands in compensation. Money Redress are the claim specialist you can trust. Text WIN to 80252 right now. From overseas property to storage units, they're the experts who can investigate your claim. And it's no payout, no fee. Take control of your pension today. Text WIN to 80252.
At Wickes this weekend, there's 15% off all paint, wood care, tiles and flooring, including great brands like Dulux and Cuprinol. Starts Friday. Wickes.
At Argos, our big red event is on. Save up to a third on selected garden furniture, spas and barbecues. Plus, get a free £10 voucher when you spend £100. With Argos, you're good to go. Conditions apply. Selected lines. Offer ends 5th of June. Voucher offer ends 2nd of June when you spend £100 or more. Excludes gift card purchases.
Life is about sharing those magical moments, and food shouldn't be any different. For over 35 years, Marouche has been perfecting this experience with their delicious food, warm hospitality and live entertainment. Authentic Lebanese cuisine made the traditional way. Marouche, your family restaurant. Book now at marouche.com.
These sausages and burgers are great. Well done.
Actually, I think they're cooked perfectly.
Pick up a 454-gram pack of Co-op Butcher's Choice Cumberland sausages for £1.69 or a 4-pack of Co-op Beef Quarter Pounders for just £2.50 at the Co-op. Participating stores subject to availability.
Ocean Credit
If you're looking for credit, go to checkocean.co.uk and see in seconds if you'll be accepted for an Ocean credit card before you apply. Checking doesn't affect your credit rating, and with a credit limit of up to £1,500, it's a no-brainer. Go to checkocean.co.uk right now and get an answer in seconds. 39.9% APR representative variable. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender.
Checkocean.co.uk.
Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
Campaigning's about to end in Ireland for the referendum. The vote takes place on Friday. There'll be a day of reflection tomorrow. And boy, people will be reflecting. This issue about legalising abortion is a huge, huge debate that is going on in Ireland. It's a constantly massive debate in America. It's something we hardly ever discuss. And yet, as soon as we do, I find there are huge passions on both sides of this argument. If you were an Irish citizen, how would you vote on Friday? Would you vote to allow legalised abortion much along the same laws that we currently have here in England? Laura is a new caller from Brentwood in Essex. Good evening, Laura.
Hi, Nigel. Nice to speak to you.
Good to speak to you. How do you feel on this?
Well, having been raised a Catholic, I've always been very, very pro-life and couldn't comprehend how anyone could possibly go through with an abortion. Mm-hmm. However, 2 years ago, I had my first pregnancy and had a child, and it's completely changed my mind. To make a woman go through with a pregnancy and a birth of a child that she does not want is barbaric. And it is worse than torture to make a woman go through that for a child that she does not want.
Isn't the argument, Laura, that a lot of people who get pregnant that didn't want to actually adjust to it, and by the time the child arrives, more than accept it?
But how do you know that you would adjust and you would accept it? You don't know. If
well, you don't
8 weeks
know,
pregnant, you decide you don't want that child, and how can anyone tell you that you should have it? And for the caller that said, don't get pregnant in the first place, well, it takes 2 people to get pregnant. Unfortunately, lots of people get pregnant by mistake all the time. It's just one of those things,
But I mean, here's a point, Laura. I'm going to put this to you. Samantha in West London sends to me by SMS. She says, I'm against changing this law. I don't think it protects the woman. Rather, it gives the man an excuse to walk away.
What does she mean by that? Walk away from what?
Walk away from his responsibilities. I mean, she is saying that life is sacred, and that actually, if women have abortions, or men actually can force women, in some cases, into having abortions. Do you think that happens out there?
Maybe. I don't know. But I don't know how someone could force you into having an abortion, because I've been with a friend who had an abortion. You go through so many processes before you actually get there. You would have the opportunity to tell somebody you were being forced into it. You didn't want to do it. So
ultimately, Laura, your view is that the woman's choice matters more, and I'm going to use a contentious term here that the other side use. A woman's choice matters more than a potential child's life.
Yes. Because it's unfair. And as a man, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but men cannot possibly understand what a woman goes through. From the second you get pregnant, your life changes forever. Your body isn't your own. And it's not fair to make a woman go through that if she does not want to.
Do you think men should vote in Ireland on Friday?
That's a tough question.
It is, isn't it? It's a very tough question.
It seems unfair to say no, they shouldn't vote. However, you cannot understand. You just can't understand. It's something good for these male callers ringing up saying, it's not fair.
Laura,
I can't imagine.
I've got another one here. Martin's just sent me a tweet. He says, as a man, I wouldn't want to tell women what to do on this issue. So there's a lot of men coming onto the more men than women coming onto this show tonight saying they don't think they should have a say on this. Laura, listen, you've been through a big change of thought in this. I thank you for being, so personal, so open, so honest with us on that. Thank you. And Laura's saying, actually, pregnancy fundamentally changes a woman's body, her life. It should be her choice. Big passions on both sides. Should men vote in this referendum on Friday? Folks, this is about the Irish Constitution. How could men not vote? given that is the issue. That's how it seems to me. Adam is a new caller from East Grinstead. Good evening, Adam.
Good evening.
So, should women have the right to choose, or are the rights of the unborn child those that should be prevalent?
Well, based on personal experience of being the son of a rapist, the person who raped my mother,
okay,
and I am 70 years old.
Yep.
I look at it and say the woman should have the choice. My mother and her fiancé chose to go through the pregnancy. Not that they had a great deal of choice, because back then it was illegal to have an abortion in Britain.
Well, of course it was, yeah.
So my parents kept quiet for 52 years. None of the family were aware that my father, who had, the man I call my father, who had basically gone through a shotgun wedding, wasn't the father of my mother's firstborn son.
Yeah.
But, as I say, over time, he proved to be the father of all fathers.
So, Adam, were you 52 when you found this out yourself?
I was 52.
52?
Yeah, 52. So, my siblings had known for a couple of years before that. That's another story, but yeah, I was 52, and I was actually at a funeral of a relative.
Wow. That must have been a hell of a shock, Adam.
Well, strangely enough, it wasn't such a shock, because my mother had hinted when I was about 15, when she lost her temper in an argument.
Right.
But I had ignored it, but you know, when I was told, my mind went straight back to when I was 15 years old and thought, well, it was true then.
Yeah. And Adam, so you were brought up by your mother and
father.
And father.
And stepfather, effectively.
Yes, of course. But you had a happy upbringing?
Absolutely.
And you've had a good life?
Absolutely.
And you're 70?
Absolutely.
And you're sounding pretty hale and hearty?
Yep.
So maybe, Adam, you're an advert that says, actually, even if the circumstances of conception are difficult, life can be a great success.
Oh, yes. But having said that, I still think that the choice, as it was with my mother and father, the choice should be the woman's choice.
Yeah. So if you were in Ireland on Friday, you'd vote to change the legislation, yeah?
Yes, her body.
Adam, great call. Thank you very much indeed. That Adam actually wasn't his name, but it was very brave of him, wasn't it, to ring up and say that. Wow, it really was. Let's go to Rebecca in Twickenham, another new caller. They're all new callers. Rebecca, good evening.
Hi, Nigel. How are you?
Hello. Do I detect an Irish accent there, Rebecca?
Absolutely.
Right. And are you voting on Friday?
Well, I won't be in Ireland on Friday, so I won't be voting. But if I was voting, I would be voting no.
You would vote no, would you? Right. OK. Why?
Yes. Because the 8th Amendment is the only constitutional protection for the unborn. Now, at the moment, I would hope for a no vote, and then at a later stage, we can bring some amendments to that. I would agree with abortion on medical grounds.
Yep.
I would agree with fatal fetal abnormalities.
Yep.
I don't agree with protecting the procreation rights of rapists. So I would like some adjustments in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting.
For the moment.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah,
so, Rebecca,
a yes vote is...
You're another one. I mean, this is my position, Rebecca. If I was voting in Ireland on Friday, I, like you, would vote no, thinking that legislation could be a lot better framed than it currently is, and just to mirror the way that we're currently doing it on the mainland of the United Kingdom. Actually, they could have thought about it a bit more, couldn't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're trotting out cases like Savita Halappanavar, who did not die for want of an abortion. She died from medical incompetence and mismanaged sepsis. That was why she died. But they're trotting out that the yes side, they're doing this at the moment. Now, it's a very, very emotive issue. There are friends of mine in Ireland that say when they start this abortion debate, they feel like leaving the country. It's been going on for many, many years, but I do believe that a yes vote at the moment is a little bit extreme.
Do you think Varadkar's made a mistake here? Do you think if he'd put forward a more limited form of abortion for Ireland, it might have sailed through more easily.
He has no interest in Ireland. He's our unelected Taoiseach. I have no time for the man whatsoever.
OK, all right. I was asking the wrong person there, Rebecca, wasn't I? But thank you. I've certainly got an opinion. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to all of you who've participated in this. It really is a hot topic. It's something people genuinely care about. The one thing that came out of the last hour that perhaps surprised me in terms of the strength of its conviction were the number of people who think that men should not actually vote on this issue, but they will on Friday vote on this issue because it is about Ireland's constitution. We'll see what the result is. No one knows what it's going to be, but I begin to think that maybe the government might just lose this. It's a guess. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show. I'm back tomorrow night at